Alright, it's that time of week yet again. I'm Matt, welcome to Vinyl Head UK. Should we do some more download memories? I reckon so. We're on to 2014. We've zoomed through these. We've hit like a decade worth of download memories. I hope you're enjoying the ride. I definitely am. 2014 was another solid year. Pretty happy. We got some good headliners. I actually jumped away from Maine and caught a couple of the third stage headliners this year. We'll come on to all of this. But here we are. Let me tell you, once again, we're going to go with my memories as best we can as I run through every week. This isn't a review. This isn't, rating all the bands, anything like that. I'm just trying to pick as much as I can remember out of my head with my trusty list next to me so I can remember who actually played that weekend. Try and remember as much as I can for you guys. But let's dive straight in. Weather wasn't too bad from what I remember. I think we had quite a dry download this year, which was good. Let's come on to who headlined as normal. So, Friday the 13th of June. Unlucky for some, maybe not for us. Headlining Friday night. A new headliner. A band that had been pushed up into that headliner slot. Avenged Sevenfold were there. This one was a little bit mixed when it got announced. But I feel that's kind of the same for any new headliner that gets pushed up into that slot. That's worked their way up. It happened with Slipknot, it's happened with others. And it happened with Avenged Sevenfold. You know, a lot of doubters. Can they headline? Are they ready? I don't know. It's not Metallica, it's not Iron Maiden, it's not whoever. But we'll come on to that set a little bit later and talk about whether they were ready. Saturday, a band coming back to headline for, must have been the third or maybe fourth time already, and that was Linkin Park, coming back on a Saturday and doing something quite unique and quite special that night. And then closing off the festival on the Sunday, another band returning. This show was put out on DVD and Blu-ray as well, and that was Aerosmith. Aerosmith Rocks Donington. It's in my DVD collection. It's a good show, let me tell you. And that was our headliners, our main stage headliners. As always, we jump across the stages and look at who was headlining. The names of the stages. The main stage this year was the Stephen Sutton main stage. Most of you are probably familiar with Stephen Sutton. Unfortunately died a month or so before the festival. And his tradition at Download, we lose someone like that, the stage gets renamed after that person. So as I say, the Stephen Sutton main stage for this one. The Zippo Encore stage was our second stage. Pepsi Max stage was third. The Red Bull Studios live stage, fourth. And Jägermeister acoustic stage, back once again, that acoustic stage, making up the fifth stage. So again, 5 stages across the site. Headliner-wise, Friday, as I say, Avenged Sevenfold on main. We had the Offspring back, headlining second stage. This marked the very first time that a band who headlined the main stage had come back in a lower slot. So the Offspring headline main back in, I think it was 2008. And here they were coming back, still headlining, but this time down on the second stage. Opeth headlining third. Opeth had played many, many times already at Download. They were back doing their first headline slot on the third stage. We had the Dan Reed Network on fourth. And Jamie Lemon on fifth on that acoustic stage. Interesting ones on Saturday. Quite good headliners across the board. So Linkin Park headlining main. As I say, Status Quo That's an interesting one. Headlining second stage, Status Quo. That's quite cool. A little bit different for Download, I feel, but good on them for getting them. Behemoth, third. Very cool set. That's where I was that night. Sixth on fourth. Another great British band there. And then Ginger Wildheart headlining the acoustic stage. The Wildhearts, of course, played that weekend, that day on the second stage. So Ginger pulling double duty. And then on the Sunday main stage, Aerosmith. Trivium on second. Now, Trivium were actually booked to headline the fourth stage of all places. And there was uproar when it was announced. A band as big as Trivium headlining a little stage. Like, how's everyone going to get into there? You know, it's going to be carnage. And thankfully, Download listened and bumped them over to headline second stage, where obviously we could have a huge, big audience compared to that little marquee tent. The Dillinger Escape Plan were probably creating carnage, headlining third stage. Can you imagine what that would have been like? Zebrahead on fourth, and then Nick Oliveri, of course, from Queens of the Stone Age fame, headlining that acoustic stage. And that's our headliners across the board, all 15 of them. Third stage for me was pretty solid that year. I was liking a bit of third stage headliners. Should we dive into it? I've got a bit of a croaky voice, so you have to bear with me. Of course, we've come to the conclusion of the Euros. If you're watching in Europe, I'm sure you'll know what that means. If you're a bit further afield, hopefully you know what that means. But I've got a little bit of a croaky voice from following England, so bear with me a little bit there. So let's jump in to Friday. Friday the 13th, as I say. Was that unlucky for some? Was it unlucky for you? Wasn't unlucky for me. I had a good day, that one. Opening up main stage were Miss May I. It seemed to be that we kind of got these sort of American metalcore bands opening up, or at least metalcore, maybe not always American, but these sort of metalcore bands opening up main stage at Download each year on the Friday. It seemed to be a bit of a trend. But here we are, Miss May I. Not really a big fan. I checked them out. They were okay. They didn't do masses for me. Obviously, I've seen a lot of bands live, and not all of them are going to kind of connect, or some of them just kind of go through the motions with. So for me, they were okay. Nothing much more to report on than that for me. If you love them, great. If you didn't enjoy them, great. But yeah. Crossfaith were on after Miss May I. Now, Crossfaith were Japanese sort of electronic metalcore band, and they had a decent crowd. And I tell you what, they put on a really good show. It's a band that I wasn't massively familiar with. I knew the name, I didn't know much about them, but I actually really enjoyed them. Huge energy from the keyboard player, from the drummer. Drummer was immense. And they were really fun. They were really good. It got you in the mood. Like Miss May I, kind of with them, was a band that I feel you see a lot of that type, and sometimes it's hard to differentiate between those type of bands. Whereas Crossfaith kind of felt unique and different and really enjoyable. Like I say, a lot of energy. We got an Omen cover by The Prodigy, which, you know, kind of fitted into their style. And obviously, we've already learned in the past that bands like The Prodigy, you know, they go down very well at Donington and at Download. So, yeah, putting in a Prodigy cover was, you know, a smart move on their part. I don't know if that was something that they did regularly or, you know, play regularly. I don't know. But, yeah, really, really great set. And it kind of, it sparked Download into life a little bit and got everyone's energy going. And, you know, start of a good weekend coming up. After Crossfaith, we had Powerman 5000 back from the day. Now I think, I'm not really up on my knowledge of this band, but I think this was their first UK show in some time back from maybe the late 90s, early 2000s. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, this was I believe their first show in quite a while. Again, not really into them all that much. Nothing really to report for me on those. Back on Maine, once again, a band that was kind of making Donington their home, and that was Skindrid. Of course, Skindrid last month played the Pilot, so, you know, very, very familiar band to the sacred turf of Donington. And here they were again. Benji, as I always say, the ultimate frontman. He can control that audience in the palm of his hand. He has absolute control. They had Kenta from Crossfaith come out to do Warning. With, of course, the Newport helicopter. Take that bit of clothing off, spin it around your head. Don't whip your friend in the eye. That's not cool. But again, just like Crossfaith, a lot of high energy. You get that from the Skindrid show. I'm sure you've all seen them a few times if you've been to Donington or on their own or anywhere. You know, they've done Sonosphere and Reading and Leeds and everywhere. Fantastic live band. The sort of band you really want at a festival. The sort of band that you're going to have a good time to. You know, and as I say, you had that high energy from Crossfaith. Carry it on a bit later with Skindrid. And we're having a party on the Friday. We're having a serious party at this point. Following on from Skindrid were Black Label Society. Zakk Wylde and his pinch harmonics every 2.6 seconds. Not that that's a bad thing, but you do get a lot of if that was a pinch harmonic, it might be the worst pinch harmonic ever. I don't know. The Marshall Stacks were there. The Randy Rhoads guitar that Zakk Wylde played. My favourite album by Black Label Society is Mafia. And they played Suicide Messiah from Mafia, which for me was the best point of the set. I like Black Label Society. I like their riffier, heavier stuff. I'm not so keen on the sort of piano-led, ballady stuff. If you've ever heard Hangover Music by Black Label, not so much into that, but, you know, the heavier stuff I really dig. So, you know, when they play stuff like Suicide Messiah, yeah, I'm down for that. I think I prefer Zakk with Ozzy. I like Zack's guitar playing and his stuff more with Ozzy. Maybe just because I like Ozzy's music more. But, you know, if Black Label are playing, I'll go check them out. I think we've got them next year at 22. So, you know, it's just that sort of nod your head, good time music. A bit like Down. Maybe not as heavy or as good as Down for me, but yeah, I don't mind a bit of Black Label. Like I say, it's impressive just seeing all those Marshall stacks set out, and Zakk Wylde is pretty big, intimidating presence. And of course, he's an incredible guitar player, but he does pinch harmonic a lot. Rival Sons we went to see next. This was over on the second stage. And they were promoting, let me get the name right of this one. Is it The Great Western Valkyrie? I think the album was. Which I'm pretty sure was at this point that they were promoting it. Or maybe it had only just come out or was due to come out. Anyway, I think it was that album. Stuff like Electric Man. I think Open My Eyes was off that record as well. I really like Rival Sons. I remember seeing them fairly early on into their career a couple of times. And they kind of got called the new Led Zeppelin, which is a big tag, really, for any band, no matter how good or bad you are. That's a big tag to have, the next or the new Led Zeppelin. And I, kind of glad that people came away from that tag, because then it sets expectations, and you could be an incredible band, but if you don't match the material that Zeppelin put out, then a lot of people will, maybe not be so happy. And the tag got dropped, which was good, It came to Greta Van Fleet instead, and, obviously Greta Van Fleet sound a lot more like Zeppelin compared to Rival Sons. But Rival Sons are a solid live band. Jay Buchanan has an incredible voice. They are fantastic musicians. I've always enjoyed going to see Rival Sons. They're a band that can do sort of the more slower paced, dare I say, ballady type songs, but are more enjoyable. I think Jay Buchanan's voice sets far better to that than sort of Zakk Wylde's sort of wailing-y Zakk Wylde voice. But yeah, good set. Pressure and Time is always a great track. I think this was a set we got Torture as well, which is one of their very early tracks, which I always really enjoy to hear. We don't often get to hear it that much. They don't really venture back that far into their back catalogue at times. But yeah, to hear Torture was a cool time. And I always enjoy seeing bands on second stage, because I feel you can get closer. You get a good sound. Main can be a little bit hit and miss, I find, with the sound. If you get wind or just where you're positioned, you don't always quite, I think, get the full decent sound coming through. Whereas second, you do. A lot of people tend to just fluctuate towards second to see a specific band and then move on. Whereas main, obviously, people kind of camp down there, ready for headliner or sub-headliner. So you can get a good spot. It's on the slope as well, so you can always get a decent, good view. So I always enjoy seeing stuff. I'd probably say I enjoy seeing stuff more on second than I do on main. So if there's a band I really like and I see that they're playing second stage, I'm pretty happy with that. And yeah, a good solid set once again from Rival Sons. Really enjoyable. Going back over to main, to see someone that had already played a second stage headliner in 2011. But we ended up not catching him. If you checked out my 2011 video, you'll know that the weather and the elements got to us a little bit and we departed. I know, don't judge me, but we departed Donington because there wasn't really anything that we massively wanted to see. This, of course, was Rob Zombie. I've never been a White Zombie or Rob Zombie fan. I have gone to see him a couple times at Download since 2014 as well, when he's come back to play. And he does put on a great show. There's no denying that. But musically wise, like picking up the records, CDs, vinyl, whatever, not been huge on Rob Zombie. But as I say, it is a good show. And you know a couple of ones that you've heard down the line, Dragula and whatever. Some of the White Zombie tracks, which he did do. We kind of caught him stood back a little bit because we wanted to go over to third to catch the headliner. So we stood back a little bit, towards the back end of the sound desk back there, so we could swiftly go over to third, but still kind of catch a view of Rob Zombie. He's got a good band around him. It seems that he just kind of takes from Marilyn Manson, and Manson maybe takes back. We had John 5, Ginger Fish on drums. But it was good. I remember as well, there was a couple of times he went down into the crowd, and where we were stood up towards the back of the sound desk, he came right down. So obviously you know that there's a divide between the crowd from the front of main all the way back to the sound desks. And he'd already gone into the crowd a couple of times. And he was walking up. John 5 was doing a solo or riffing or whatever he was doing. Another very underrated guitarist there is John 5, I have to say. He did some great stuff with Manson, and he's doing some real good stuff, it sounds, from Rob Zombie from what we've seen. But Rob Zombie came down. He walked up that divide, and he actually walked around the sound desk, and he was like feet away from us. And we kind of didn't expect it because we were kind of not fully, I guess, paying attention, and looked over, and there he was, literally just walking past us, back round and down, which was pretty cool to have Rob Zombie right there. Really random. But yeah, as I say, we got White Zombie, you know, the stuff that you'd expect to hear. It was a good show. I caught him a few years later, headlining Second again, and that was a really good show. That was a full production. You know, nighttime came, so we got the full production with the lights and everything. That was a really good show. And again, it's like a big party with Rob Zombie's stuff. There seemed to be a bit of a theme throughout the day. Crossfaith and then Skindrid and then Rob Zombie. Just like feel-good party type vibes from some of these bands. But yeah, as I say, we went over to Third Stage to catch the first headliner on Third for myself that weekend, and that was Opeth, a band that I love. I've seen them many times at their own shows and at festivals. They were the second band I ever saw at Download 2004. They were on after Dillinger, of course, who were headlining the Third a couple of nights later, so that was quite cool. See those opening two main stage bands coming and doing a Third Stage headliner slot each. As I say, seen them many times, seen them in Germany, seen them down at festivals in London. Always a good time. We've come more away from the sort of deathy black sound that Opeth used to have. We're now more going into progressive material with a whole array of different instrumentation and sounds and passages, but still Opeth. We're still getting, we're getting more clean. We don't really hear the death growls anymore from Mikael Åkerfeldt. But a solid band. And that tent was full. We got Heir Apparent, Deliverance, what else? What was the one I was going to say? Demon of the Fall. And to hear those in the tent, we were pretty close down to the front as well. And to hear those tunes blasting out in that tent and looking around, and the atmosphere was so good. So good. Opeth are one of the tightest bands you could possibly see. I think other than Opeth, Gojira and Meshuggah, I think those three bands, tightness-wise, seem to be in a league of their own. You know, you could go and see Gojira and go and see Meshuggah and go and see Opeth, and you could shut your eyes and it would be listening to a very loud version of the studio recording. You know, they're so tight. And as I say, those songs, Heir Apparent, I love. That's one of my favourite tracks. I really love the Watershed album. And yeah, Mikael Åkerfeldt with his dry humour. And then the death growls, and then the beautiful singing voice that he has as well. And it was really great. It was great seeing Opeth, especially doing a headline slot. Again, the songs are pretty long, so we didn't get a huge set list. But it was good enough for sort of an hour or so to enjoy ourselves in that tent there. After Opeth, we came and we caught the probably last quarter of Avenged Sevenfold. Now, as I discussed at the start, a lot of people were unsure when Avenged got announced as a headliner. And this happens, you know, frequently. Anything new or anyone new headlining, the fan base to a degree will jump all over it and sometimes be a bit negative about the decisions made. I've touched on this before a couple of times. It's a fickle kind of crowd at times. It's awkward to please because when someone new is announced, you get a lot of people going, where's Metallica? Where's Iron Maiden? Where's, AC/DC, Def Leppard, Black Sabbath? Bands that have played and headlined a fair few times. Where are they? Where are they? When these bands then get announced, so Iron Maiden or Def Leppard a good one because they seem to be there every other year, it feels. When these bands get announced, oh, why doesn't so-and-so get a chance? Why doesn't this band get the headline? Why? And it seems like you just can't please everyone. But when a band gets you see them playing these sort of mid-card slots and then up a little bit, up into sub-headliner. Avenged subbed for System of a Down a couple of years prior also. Where was it? I have my list in front of me here. Yeah, so 2011, of course. They sub-headlined for System of a Down, so, pushing their way up. And there they were as headliner. Now, I used to quite like Avenged Sevenfold. I really love the City of Evil record. I had a lot of friends that I used to hang around with that were big Avenged fans. I would listen to quite a lot of Avenged. And I kind of fell away from them a little bit. I still keep half an eye and sort of half listen to some of the newer releases. But I kind of lost my way with them. It's, why I went with Opeth over them. Opeth, I think, far superior band for me. But before, I'd go and see Avenged if they played, wherever they played, see them on their tours. The most short-changed I ever felt was actually seeing an Avenged show back at the old original Birmingham Academy. And it was their own show, it had support, and then they played for what felt like about 45 minutes, and that was it. And off they went, and it's probably the most short-changed I'd ever felt seeing a band at their own show. Thankfully, that hasn't happened very much, but I always remember that one. Now, from what I saw, and from what a lot of people said, the verdict was yes, they were ready, and yes, it was justified that they got pushed into that position. They brought full production. I mean, it was very Spinal Tap-esque looking at that production. It was very OTT, very, very over the top. A lot of pyro, hell of a lot of pyro. Is he the Shepherd of Fire or whatever it is with the album artwork sat there, and the gates, and just, it was very sort of Spinal Tap-esque, but, good on them bringing the full production for this headline slot. And of course, I guess that production followed through on the other European festival shows. But, I think from what I saw, they did pull it off. Maybe not to the degree that, say, Slipknot did. Slipknot sort of staked their claim. They were fired up. They were there to prove that Donington is theirs and that they can headline this festival. I don't think Avenged did that quite so much. I can't tell you fully because I didn't see the full set. If I'd seen the full set, then yes, maybe I could have given a better version of what I thought. But from that last quarter, it didn't look... Okay, Avenged aren't sort of maybe the ferocity that Slipknot brings. So Slipknot on all cylinders are going to level it, and the energy isn't going to drop. Avenged, maybe some of the energy will drop based on some of the songs, but it didn't look like they were quite staking their claim as much as, say, Slipknot. But Maybe I'm saying this because the production was so big, it looked and it felt like the grandiose that it was a headliner. Maybe it was that, I don't know. But we still, we still got to hear Unholy Confessions, Beast and the Harlot. Did they do, I think, Almost Easy maybe as well, we got to hear. I can't remember fully. But yeah, there they were. They were brought in, new band. I'm going to touch upon this on a video that's going to come up in the next few weeks, talking about the future and the present state of headliner bands at festivals. So I won't delve into that too much. But there they were. They were a new headliner, fresh headliner. And yeah, I think that they did pull it off. I believe, I'm going to look down my list again, that they did come back and headline again. I might be making that up. Oh no, they did. Correct. So yeah, they came back in 2018 and headlined again. Okay. What else do we have? I'm just going to throw in as well, just because I've noticed, a band that I didn't mention that played on main stage, who came on after Black Label Society and before Rob Zombie, and that was Within Temptation, who are Dutch. I think they're Dutch. Not me massively into Within Temptation. I've seen them before. I really have the urge to go and see them again. I was over watching Rival Sons, so that kept me happy. As we always do, let's jump across and see what else we had over the Friday. So, second stage, you had The Answer back again, the Temperance Movement, Rival Sons. So kind of a feel of sort of mid to hard rock going through that day there. Flogging Molly, Bad Religion, and The Offspring. So then we went kind of punky for the last part of that day. As I say, Offspring were there. I think Offspring were doing a... I don't know their albums at all, but I think they were doing a full album show, a bit like I've spoke to you guys about before with Metallica doing Master of Puppets, for example. I'm pretty sure Offspring were doing something like that. I don't really know their albums, so I'm sorry I can't tell you which one. Third stage, the band that jumps out most, who played 4 or 5 down from the headliners, were Royal Blood. I kind of wish I'd gone to see that show. Seeing them in a small tent like that, you won't get to see that again. Royal Blood are really... they are a band firing on all cylinders right now, and they're doing big things. They're doing the arena tours. They're playing good slots at festivals like Reading and Glastonbury. I kind of feel that's more their market than Download. I've talked about other bands. One of those I'm going to come on to in a bit with Bring Me the Horizon. Enter Shikari is another one. They're good at Donington, but I think the bigger market for them is Glastonbury or is Reading and Leeds. Festivals like that. But even so, I think that would have been pretty cool to see. I could imagine them maybe coming back and playing maybe a sub-headliner at main stage at Donington, maybe. I don't know. It's sort of band that I think would have fit in quite well, subbing to, say, Biffy Clyro. But we shall see. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I think this is the only time they've actually played at Donington. But yeah, I kind of wish I'd gone to see him in that little tent. And yeah, I don't mind a little bit of Royal Blood. They're not too bad. Let Live. I think they would have absolutely floored the place in there. I think that would have been quite a show to have gone to see. Anathema, and then of course Opeth headlining. Fourth stage, nothing too much on there stands out. Dan Reed Network headlining. And then yeah, on acoustic stage we had The Answer doing double duty. Jamie Lemon as well. Yeah, and that was Friday for you. Jumping on to Saturday. Now, here's a fun one opening up Saturday, the 14th of June. And that was Dying Fetus. A little bit of death metal. I do like my death metal, so this was pretty cool to see. I'd seen Dying Fetus before, supporting Cannibal Corpse at my local venue a good few years ago, which was, a great night. I'd break your neck that night. But this came about because I think Avenged Sevenfold were firstly announced as a headliner, and someone started on Twitter the hashtag of "Why Not Dying Fetus" or something like that. Words to that sort of mind. But it was started and it carried some momentum. It was sort of put that "Why Can't Dying Fetus" headline, which, you know, I don't think they'd ever do. They wouldn't even do that. Bloodstock, not big enough. But it kind of started out, and it gained, as these things do on Twitter, it gained some momentum, and it obviously found its way to Andy Coppin and his crew. And so they were bumped onto open main stage, which was really surreal. Now, I think it's really important for these more extreme metal genres, whether that's black or death or grindcore. I think it's quite a monumental thing when you see them on main, because you do get a lot of popular bands on main that kind of cater to people coming in ticket sales and stuff. So whenever I see a more extreme band playing main stage at Download, it's a very cool feeling. We get them a lot on second. We get them obviously on third. You only have to look at the headliners on third that weekend to see that we do. But to get them on main and have extreme metal sort of pushed in front of that many people, because you do get a lot of people, as I say, kind of camping out at main, sitting back on their chairs and on the floor, kind of just sat back waiting to see whoever and just kind of catching these bands from a distance. To have extreme metal put into their faces is a very cool big thing. Obviously, yes, Bloodstock is a more metal festival, and we get a lot of extreme metal on the main stage there. But obviously Download is so much bigger. So it was very surreal at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning at Download, when you know that you've got Fall Out Boy and Linkin Park closing the day, to have Dying Fetus blasting out some old school death metal. But it was very cool. I'm going to jump back because I've just noticed something as well. Did see Dying Fetus, but there was a very strange thing happening on Saturday morning that got a lot of, I guess, press to a degree. The forums were alight with rumours about this and speculation. Social media, again, was awash with talk about what was happening here. And that was a group who went by the name of Iceman Thesis. Now, the story behind this was, we didn't know who they were. They were in balaclavas or something. They dropped a music video and released a track just before Download. No identity, nobody knew who they were. And they were announced that they would be playing at 11 o'clock on the Saturday morning on third and fourth stage at the same time. Now, rumours were rampant that this was going to be some form of supergroup. Their identities would be revealed and it would blow us away. There was all sorts of talk, secret band, that it actually is somebody else and they're going off a code kind of name, which we've seen before at various places and festivals where bands have done that. There was all sorts of rumours. Now, I went to third and waited with a lot of other people. The tent was busy. I don't know what fourth was like. I imagine it'd be the same. But third was busy. There was a lot of people who were kind of had expectations over to what they were going to see. Were we going to get a big band in third opening up at 11 o'clock? Was this a cover-up for someone? Was this a supergroup that had formed and doing their first show? 11 o'clock came and these 5 guys came out in balaclavas and they played this track that they had released on this video. And then they just walked off and that was it. And to this day, I do not know what that was about. They did exactly the same on fourth. No answers. Nothing. I might Google after and see if anything was ever said about what it was. But as far as I know, it was the most mysterious thing I've ever seen. It was a little bit anticlimactic, but I think that's because everyone let rumours run rampant. That was Iceman Thesis. So we saw that for 5 minutes, and then we went over to Dying Fetus and got some good old-fashioned death metal. So yeah, very weird start to the day, Saturday morning. This weird 5-minute track from a band that we didn't know who they were, and then into Dying Fetus. Very odd. Jumping after Dying Fetus was Fozzy. I've spoke about Fozzy before. If you're into wrestling, you will know who Chris Jericho is. Who's wrestled with WWE and that. I think Fozzy are usually there because he's a known name. Chris Jericho seems to be like everyone's friend in the rock and metal world, and they all know him, and then he gets these slots for his band based on who he is, maybe. Bit average at best, I find Fozzy's music. I don't think Chris Jericho's a great singer. Yeah, he's a good front man. You'd expect that from being a wrestler and what they do, but nah, not for me. Following this, we didn't catch the next couple of bands on main. We went off, got some beer and some food, and that was Bury Tomorrow and While She Sleeps, so I can't really comment on those two. We went back and caught a band who, yet again, was back at Donington, as they seemed to, another one of those bands that kind of called it home, and that was Bowling for Soup. And I've always said that Bowling for Soup are entertaining. I'm not a pop punk fan. I know the tracks that they've put out as singles as such. So Girl All the Bad Guys Want, 1985, whatever else that they've put out that I can't remember the names of. But yeah, punk rock never ends. I don't know. Anyway, they're funny. They're entertaining. They're very, very funny. It makes a nice little break in the day, especially with, you know, some of the heavier bands and whatever. And it's a nice comedy break. We as metal fans and rock fans, we like to be entertained. We like to have fun, you know. And Bowling for Soup makes the big, beefy, muscular, tattooed, shaven-headed guy laugh as well. And if they can do that, we're on to a winner. Another band yet again who is coming back and definitely called Download their home, along with Skindrid and Bowling for Soup and all those other bands that I mentioned, were Killswitch Engage. Back with Jesse. Jesse had done Download already with Killswitch since coming back into the band. They were there doing a second stage slot a couple of years before, 2012. And here they were again playing kind of a familiar spot for them. This sort of third, fourth position from top on main. Now they were on the Disarm the Descent tour. So we got a few tracks off that. And then again, everything that you kind of normally hear from a Killswitch set at festivals. So Fixation on the Darkness, A Bid Farewell, My Last Serenade, of course. We've got Micah's. Didn't get Holy Diver, which I think was more of a Howard era song. I don't know if really Killswitch played that so much with Jesse Leach these days. I think that was more of a Howard thing. We also got Life to Lifeless, which was great. Off the Alive or Just Breathing album. That's one of my favourite tracks off that. And that was pretty cool to hear that old school Jesse stuff. I've talked about Killswitch before. Big fan of the Howard stuff. Kind of lost my way a little bit when Jesse came back. I've gone out and got Atonement with obviously Jesse on and really love that album. So yeah, I've come round a lot more to Jesse era or second stint of Jesse era Killswitch, definitely. But yeah, kind of, you know, other than the Disarm the Descent stuff, it was kind of familiar territory. Some of the Killswitch sets blend in a little bit just because it's quite repetitive on the songs that they do put in from earlier albums. So it's kind of cool to hear newer stuff as well, just to break that up. They do blend in a little bit, as I say, these sets. But yeah, that was Killswitch. Following Killswitch were a band that we'd seen many times already at Download, but this was their first main stage slot. Slot, the sounding very German there. Slot. Now it's Bring Me the Horizon, who were really pushing at the peak at that present time. I saw, funnily enough, the connection with Killswitch actually is kind of random, but I actually saw Bring Me the Horizon back when they were starting out, very small, and both times they were on opening slot for Killswitch of all bands, funnily enough, both down in Birmingham. And yeah, they weren't very known at this point. It was opening slots. I don't know why they did it on 2 tours, but they did. We actually bumped into them in McDonald's as well afterwards, and they were very shy. Like, Ollie Sykes was very shy, very quiet. We spoke to him. He said thank you. He didn't really say much else. Very quiet and shy at that point. But here they were. They jumped above Killswitch. They were in a higher slot than Killswitch. So yeah, they really found their growth, rising up. Not really massively into Bring Me the Horizon. Watched a bit. It wasn't a bad show. Again, I think they are definitely one of those bands that is more of a Reading Leeds band now, catering to that audience. Like I said, I always say the same bands, Vermin to Shikari. I've added Royal Blood onto that list today. So yeah, I think they're better suited for Reading Leeds, but they obviously drew a huge crowd, a lot of people there, very much into them. As I say, it wasn't a bad set. Not really my thing. I can't tell you what they played, any of the track names, or I can't name you any of their records, but yeah, it wasn't a bad show. And then a band who were making their debut, as far as I know, at Download, and that was Fall Out Boy. I'm not a Fall Out Boy fan. I'm not really into that whole pop punk, more pop sound, I guess, with Fall Out Boy, dare I say. Again, huge crowd. You know, probably a smart booking, considering Linkin Park were following, and the way that Linkin Park kind of went with their sound. It's probably a good kind of fit bringing Fall Out Boy in, that more sort of lighter, poppy maybe type sound. They had decent production. They even had a bit of pyro. And funnily enough, there was a lot more songs of Fall Out Boy that I knew. I didn't think I really knew all that much Fall Out Boy. I guess they put that many singles out that you hear on radio and on music channels and stuff that kind of got wedged into my head. So we kind of watched them back from a distance. As I say, it was a big crowd, kind of watched them back. We were doing the same. We were headed to third stage to catch the headliner that night. So we didn't want to, you know, get ourselves embedded into a large crowd and struggle to get out, fight our way out through the people who sometimes don't like to let you out pits. I don't know why. It's for their advantage. They get to move forward a bit. But thanks for the memories. Sugar We're Going Down. They did the Michael Jackson covers, Beat It, I think they did. That one about My Songs Know What You Did in the Dark. Is that the name of it? That's quite a catchy track, actually. As you know what, they were catchy songs. You know, they could put out a decent pop track, could Fall Out Boy. I might get slated for saying they're a pop act, you know. But, you know, really, are they any different to, say, someone like Busted or McFly? I don't think so. But yeah, catchy. You can't knock that as, you know, why they've done so well for themselves, because they are catchy tracks that you do remember. As I say, I knew far more tracks in their set than I realised I would. But it catered to a certain audience, definitely. You know, those three bands, Bring Me, The Horizon, Fall Out Boy and Linkin Park, definitely I think had a fairly similar fan base. I know Bring Me The Horizon much heavier than Fall Out Boy, but I can imagine that the fans crossed across those two bands somewhat. So quite a smart decision on the Booker's front. We went, though, to third stage to see the complete opposite to Fall Out Boy. And that was the incredible, mighty Behemoth, or Behemoth, whichever one you want to pick. Potato. No. Tomato, potato. I'm just making stuff up. I'm tired, I'm sorry. I'm getting excited because I'm going to be talking about Behemoth. I think this was my first time seeing them. I've seen them quite a lot, actually, in recent times, Behemoth. I don't think I had seen them live at this point. If I had, it would have been maybe Bloodstock. But I don't think I had at that point. But I have seen them a lot since, at their own shows. They were actually the second last band I got to see live before COVID came and took over the world and gigs and live music stopped. They were, of course, on a support for Slipknot, which was very cool to see a band like Behemoth going out and doing the rounds with someone like Slipknot. It was bringing, as I touched upon with Dying Fetus, it brought extreme music to the masses, which is never a bad thing, because extreme music is still, on the most part, I would say, fairly underground. So to bring it out to a bigger audience and show how good this music is, I don't think that's a bad thing. But anyway, Behemoth in the third stage. Do you know what blew me away? They had pyro. Pyro in the third stage. They had these huge flame cannons. And I was like, man, this thing's going to catch alight and we're going to all go down in flames. But what a soundtrack to that. You know, this satanic band, Behemoth. The Satanist was the record that they were promoting at the time. We got a couple of tracks off for Satanist. We got Of Fire and the Void, Conquer All, Slaves Shall Serve. And I remember just the energy in that tent. We had energy the night before for Opeth. And I imagine that energy completely carried over from Behemoth the next night into the Dillinger Escape Plan, who were in always a massive high energy band. But there was energy with Opeth, but a different type of energy. But this was frenzied energy. The riffs, the just pummeling sound to Behemoth. I talked about Newstead being in that third stage the year before, or a couple of years before, and just breaking my neck to Whiplash. Now, extend that out for like 45 minutes, an hour, just banging your head. It was just hair flailing everywhere. It was amazing. It blew your mind. They were so good. And like I say, the pyro, those flame cannons in the tent. I'd never seen a band use pyro in the third stage before. That was very cool. Really good, solid production. They didn't just come and play, they brought the production with them. Behemoth is a very visual band. If you see Nurgle and what he does, it's a very visual appearance with the music and the imagery and the religion and everything that goes with it. And yeah, it was just so, it's probably the best I'd ever seen Behemoth. I loved it, just full energy. Like I said, we got Slave Shall Serve, which I love, Conquer All, which I love, Of Fire and the Void, which I love, and then of course The Satanist, what an album that was, and to get some tracks off that as well. It's just such a great set list, and I was really happy to be a part of that. Now that finished and we went to catch Linkin Park. Now Linkin Park, first couple of albums I really liked, Hybrid Theory and Meteora, I thought were great records, especially Hybrid Theory. One of those bands that I grew up with in my teens as I got into heavier music. As a kid, I was listening to all sorts of crappy pop, horrible pop, manufactured rubbish. And then I started listening to rock. You know, I was listening to bands early on like Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park, Nickelback at the time, because Silver Side Up was everywhere. So you kind of had Nickelback everywhere with it. And these were gateway bands. System of a Down. Then started listening to Motorhead and Metallica. But Linkin Park were one of those gateway bands into heavier stuff. And a band that I really like, I love Hybrid Theory. Meteora, not as much, but I still love that. And then following on, I think it was Minutes to Midnight maybe after, I kind of lost interest. They went quite poppy and commercialised. They weren't that Hybrid Theory sound, which was understandable because the music evolved. Not just Linkin Park's music, but that new metal scene kind of died out and music evolved. These new metal bands weren't new metal anymore. They were branching out into rock or hard rock or metal, or all different sounds that wasn't new metal. You know, you listen to Korn, you listen to Slipknot, System of a Down. They came away from what that sound was. Maybe not so much Limp Bizkit. Limp Bizkit have always stayed, I think, pretty solid to what they always were. But yeah, so I lost my way with them, and Linkin Park just don't interest me anymore, unfortunately. I didn't see them the last time they headlined, didn't really want to see them this time. But they announced that they were doing Hybrid Theory in full. And I think this was maybe the first, it could have been the only time that they'd ever done this. And it's something I wanted to see. My logic was they'd do it at the end. Go see Behemoth, come out. Hybrid Theory was what, like half an hour? Catch Hybrid Theory in full, and it would be a pretty cool way to end the festival for me, reliving that album from when I was like 12, 13 years old. Damn it, they played it at the start, didn't they? I missed it. I was pretty gutted, especially what happened with Chester. We will never get to see that again, obviously. If Linkin Park, which I'm sure they will carry on as a band, and they bring in a brand new vocalist to replace Chester, you will never, ever, ever get to what Hybrid Theory was with a different singer. Chester made that album. You know, stuff like Crawling. He made that. He made that album, and you won't come close to recreating Chester's sound if Hybrid Theory got played in full again with a different singer. And looking back, I kind of wish that I'd gone to see this album that I love so much in full. I really did think they were going to play at the end. I messed up on that one. And they opened with it, with Paper Cut, and then all the way through. But yeah, I remember coming out from Behemoth. We were on a high because of how good Behemoth were. And I watched this stuff, Linkin Park's, and I just kind of remember shaking my head going, what have they become? It's not for me. It's very poppy. I don't like it. And we watched a couple of tracks, and it tarnished my memories of how great this band was and how much I loved them. And it was a shame, really. I think that was the last time we had them as well at Download. So it's kind of fitting that they did that album. Which was a shame, you know. I am sad that I missed it. But we weren't to know what was going to happen to Chester. And, you know, the chances are, had he stayed with us, we may have got Hybrid Theory again in an anniversary tour or something in full. But never mind, these things happen. You can't get it all. It's how it works at festivals. You're always going to miss someone. There's always going to be clashes. You're going to have to decide. We went with Behemoth. I'm glad I did because it was such a great show. But yeah, it's a shame. I would have really liked to have seen Hybrid Theory. And that was our Saturday. As per normal, let's check out the rest of the stages. We had some Chevelle. We had Skid Row, Orange Goblin, Monster Magnet, The Wild Hearts on second. And then the last two, Twisted Sister and Status Quo. That's pretty cool. I would have gone to check that out if there'd not been anything else on the rest of the stages. Yeah, that would have been quite cool. See Status Quo. not many chances, I think, for me to see Status Quo. I really won't go to one of their shows. I know we've lost one of them now, but yeah, that would have been quite cool. Saturday, third stage, Iceman Thesis, as I talked about, Lawnmower Death, Marmozets, the Black Dahlia Murder, American Head Charge, and then, of course, Behemoth. Fourth stage, Iceman Thesis again, opening. Nothing really. All of the bands were of the sort of same ilk. And then sixth, headlining. I like a bit of sixth. I've seen them a couple of times. They play Maine. Saw them on some support shows. I'm down with sixth. Quite enjoyed it. And then acoustic stage, Dave McPherson, Anathema coming back to play again, Bowling the Soup playing again, and then Ginger Wildheart playing again. Tends to be that we do get bands playing a couple of sets. If they're doing the acoustic stage, they've probably done a set somewhere else that weekend or going to do a set. So it's a nice little small intimate way of seeing someone you like doing the acoustic stuff. I think Bowling for Soup would be quite fun doing that. And then we take ourselves onto Sunday. Good day Sunday was. We opened up with Red Dragon Cartel, which was Jake E. Lee's band. If you know Jake E. Lee, he was the guitarist for Ozzy once upon a time. We got a couple of Ozzy tracks. We got Bark at the Moon, which is one of Ozzy's most famous tracks, obviously, with his solo stuff. But it was quite cool to see a bit of history with Jake E. Lee. Very good guitarist, very good with Ozzy. It was quite cool, opening up, getting a bit of Ozzy tracks going. Winger were on after, didn't see Winger. And then Buckcherry. Don't really remember much about that Buckcherry set, if I'm completely honest. Following Buckcherry was Richie Sambora. I really liked Richie Sambora. Of course, if you don't know who he is, he was once upon a time the lead guitarist for Bon Jovi. Very, very famous guitarist. And here he was doing his solo stuff. We also got a couple of Bon Jovi tracks thrown in, of course. We got Lay Your Hands on Me. And then he closed with Wanted Dead or Alive, which of course everybody knows. Probably one of the most famous Bon Jovi tracks after Living on a Prayer. Richie on vocals. Very, very accomplished guitarist. Very cool. Orianthe, who was at the time, I don't know if she still is Richie Sambora's partner. Who is a phenomenal guitarist in her own right. She was due to be Michael Jackson's lead guitarist on his final, or that tour that he died while it was in production. That tour that never actually made it out of rehearsals, unfortunately. But Orianthe was due to be lead guitarist on that. She's also been lead guitarist for Alice Cooper. But here she was with her partner, Richie Sambora. So it was very cool to see her play as well. She is a phenomenal guitarist as well. Some of her solo material is really, really good. But yeah, it was very cool. And of course, it's nice to have a little sing-along with Wanted Dead or Alive. His solo stuff was okay, but the Bon Jovi tracks made it. Big crowd. This was very much kind of a classic rock day to a degree. So it fitted in nicely. A lot of day ticketers there to see Aerosmith. And, you know, Aerosmith, Bon Jovi kind of went hand in hand together through the same eras, same kind of sound, same producers. So, yeah, if you like Aerosmith, you're probably going to enjoy Richie Sambora as well. Following Richie Sambora, another guitarist, vocalist. This was a really interesting one for me. I am a huge, huge fan of this artist. He's not known outside the blues circles hugely, I would say. But amongst blues and blues rock, he is probably one of the lead artists in that genre. And that's Joe Bonamassa. Myself, a couple of my friends, my parents are huge Joe Bonamassa fans. We love him. We have seen him many a time on his own show. We've seen him with Black Country Communion, which was a supergroup as such that he did with Glenn Hughes, with Jason Bonham and Derek Sherinian. Seen that a few times. We've seen him with Beth Hart, who is an American blues rock singer. If you haven't heard of Beth Hart, go and listen to her. Her voice is massive and stunning and amazing. Joe has done 3 albums with Beth Hart now, where they cover a range of different artists, like Etta James and Tina Turner and stuff like that. Seen here, that was at Hampton Court that we saw Joe Bonamassa and Beth Hart together. That was a beautiful setting for a gig. So yes, big, huge fans of Joe Bonamassa. When he was announced, I was skeptical. I kind of didn't want it to happen. Great, we're seeing Joe again. But Download doesn't seem the right place to be seeing him. I love Joe Bonamassa and I love Download, but sometimes I don't want those two things I love to come together. And that's how I kind of felt about Joe playing Download. It was very odd. It was maybe a feeling of, I love him and he's mine, he's my love, like he's something that I've discovered that's separate to all of this. And I don't want to share him with Download, if that makes sense. But there he was. He was actually booked to be playing where Twisted Sister plays, though. He was due to play sub-headliner to Status Quo the night before on a Saturday. But I think scheduling conflicts meant that he got pushed onto Maine, which was good because it was obviously, we can see, we probably would have seen him anyway, wherever he played across the lineup. You know, when you've got Fall Out Boy up against Joe Bonamassa, I know who's going to win for me. But yeah, he was doing several festivals. He was doing the festival run. This was something very different for Joe, something that he's not normally been known to do. And he came in that middle slot. I was like very protective of him playing because a lot of people really didn't know who he was. Never heard of him because, like I say, you know, when you've got Behemoth fans and, you know, Bring Me the Horizon fans and Rob Zombie and Avenged Sevenfold fans, you're probably not going to have heard so much of Joe Bonamassa. So I was very protective, and anyone's like, who's this guy? I was like, you watch him and you love him. You will love him. So I was like preaching a little bit. Overall, how did I feel about it after the set? I felt a little bit disappointed because I know what Joe's shows are like. We've gone and sat there at his own gigs for 2.5, 3 hours with the most beautiful crystal clear sound. And I just don't think Download was the right thing. Yes, I did enjoy seeing him. It was a short set, as in there was like 4 or 5 songs. They are long songs, I give you that. You know, we got Ballad of John Henry, which was the track that got me into Joe Bonamassa. We got Slow Train, stuff like that. I think it was Oh Beautiful, which he opened with, which was off the current album, Different Shades of Blue. But yeah, I kind of got a little disappointed, and I think that was because of that sort of suffocating that, you know, he's something I love, and I don't want to share him with Download as such, and maybe just getting defensive. It was an interesting one. I've never really felt like that when an artist's been announced for Download. It was a strange feeling to have. But there he was, he played. It was very interesting. After that, we went across to no, we didn't. We went to the third stage for the secret slot, which was probably the worst kept secret at Download. As they always are, whenever there's secret slots at Download, they seem to be the worst kept secret on site. So everybody kind of knew who was the secret band, and we were all right when they came on, because it was Blackstone Cherry, which I was very happy about. Very, very happy about, because I really love Blackstone Cherry. And that tent was packed. I read a figure, and I always a little bit skeptical on these numbers, but I read that there was, 30 odd thousand people trying to get into that tent. That sounds like a lot of people to me. I don't know how true that was. We did get in. The band that were on before were Crazy Town. I remember them from back in the day. Yeah. So we caught the very tail end of them doing that god-awful Butterfly song. And then, yeah, everyone piled in. Because I think, like I say, everyone knew it was going to be Black Stone Cherry. And it was pretty much just if you've heard any Black Stone Cherry track, they probably played it that day. All the stuff you'd expect. Blame It on the Boom Boom. Lonely Train, Rain Wizard. What else did we get? White Trash Millionaire. Everything you'd expect to hear, they played. It was a short set, like half an hour, 40 minutes, not long. But it was really great. You were packed in so tight, and you could barely see a thing because everyone was just so packed in. But it was very cool to see them back playing a smaller stage. Of course, they're doing arena shows now. They're playing some headliners on Main. You know, long gone are the days, I think, where we get Black Stone Cherry in small little compact venues. So seeing them on this secret slot in the third stage was a pretty cool thing, I think. From there, we went to the second stage where we caught the mighty Phil Anselmo. This was Phil Anselmo and the Illegals, which is Phil's solo project. And it's always cool to see him. I love Down, obviously love Pantera. Never got to see Pantera as the four of them play together. Got to see them all separate. Got to see Dimebag, thankfully. Vinnie Paul, Rex and Phil play with other artists, other projects, whatever, other bands, but never as Pantera. We got, obviously, Phil's solo stuff. They actually played a good bit of Pantera. We got Domination. We got, what did they open with? I remember, Hellbound. They opened with Hellbound. And then the coolest part of the set was they brought out Rex Brown and they did a new level. So very cool to see, because I've seen Rex play with Down. So still seeing Phil and Rex play together. Rex has obviously left Down at this point, but Down never play anything Pantera. It's strictly only Down. They do not play any Crowbar, Corrosion of Conformity, Pantera, none of their other band stuff. It's strictly Down. But to see Rex and Phil do a new level and get half of Pantera playing that, man, that was cool. What a cool moment that was. We even got a Superjoint Ritual track. A couple of Superjoint Ritual tracks, I think it was as well, thrown in. We got Waiting for the Turning Point, which I love that track. Didn't expect to hear any Superjoint. Kind of not, I think, something that Phil does all that much. So to hear a couple of Superjoint tracks, yeah, I'm down, and some Pantera and Rex come in. It was a great set. Not caring massively for Phil's solo material hugely. I want to hear Pantera and, you know, Superjoint's an added bonus as well. So we had a lot of fun there. Just going to point out as well, not that we saw them because we were watching Black Stone Cherry and Phil, but Volbeat were on after Joe Bonamassa. My friend Andy, who I've mentioned many times before, he checked out Volbeat. He was there with his lovely wife. Yeah, watching Volbeat, but I was elsewhere for that one. And then we have the run-in on Main. We had Steel Panther back once again. Andy Coppin's probably his favourite band. He loves talking about Steel Panther and he books them regularly. Of course, we have them back next year. Headlining second stage, I believe. But here they were again. You know what you're going to get. A lot of fun, a lot of laughs, and four very talented musicians with Steel Panther. They really can sing and really can play. You know, they are essentially a comedy band. They can play, you know. Another band that can play we're on after, and that was Alter Bridge. you've heard me speak about it many times before. This was on the Fortress album, which that is one of my, if not my favourite album by Alter Bridge. I love that album. There are some beautiful, amazing, heavy tracks on Fortress. They did what they usually do at Download and tend to favour more off Blackbird. I don't know what it is, but they tend to like really playing stuff a lot off Blackbird at Download. Most of the sets I've seen with Alter Bridge tend to be more Blackbird heavy sets. But we did still get a few off Fortress. Opening with Addicted to Pain. We got Waters Rising, which I love that track off Fortress. One of my favourite. I didn't expect to hear that. We also, and I think this was a really ballsy move from the band, we got Miles doing Watch Over You, which isn't unheard of. But it's kind of unheard of doing it at a festival show. Obviously, at Alter Bridge's own show, he can get out his acoustic and he can do the solo acoustic of Watch Over You, which, you know, everyone's going to lap up because it's an Alter Bridge show. But to do it at a festival when not everybody is familiar with you, I think it's quite a ballsy move. You know, huge festival show, you're sub-headlining to Aerosmith. You're doing a lot of your, you know, your more heavier tracks, but then Miles comes out just with an acoustic and does that on his own. I think that's incredibly brave from the band to do that, from Miles to do that. Because it could go one or two ways. It could really solidify fans and go, I really like this. That was a beautiful song. Or it could alienate and go, a bit pretentious. I don't know about that. But yeah, it was very interesting to see. But a good solid Alter Bridge set again. I do believe, and again, I'm going to cover this more when I do the video on headliners, but I think that's a band that we could see up there. They're constantly doing arena shows over here. You know, they have sub-headline to a few bands now, actually, Aerosmith being one of them. I think they were due to sub-headline initially before it got cancelled the first time to Maiden. So they are getting these big slots, and it's only these real monster big bands like Aerosmith and Maiden keeping them off that headliner slot. So I think we could do, but we'll talk about that more at a different point. But yeah, great band. And then we led into our headliners, which was Aerosmith. As I say, this show got put out on DVD, Blu-ray. It's in my collection. I love it. I love watching it. I love reminiscing. Especially if it's a show I've been to. We did it with Lamb of God a few years back, Aerosmith as well. We got typical Aerosmith, you know, stuff you'd expect. Sweet Emotion, Walk This Way, Don't Want to Miss a Thing. You know, what you'd expect from Aerosmith. But we also got some kind of interesting tracks. We got Toys in the Attic, which I really like that track. It's not massively surprising we got it, but we don't hear it all the time, so that was pretty cool to hear. Train Kept a Rolling. We got Freedom Fighter, which was interesting. Last Child, No More, No More. So yeah, there's some interesting choices of songs there, but it was cool. There was no new material to promote at that point, really. So it was, you know, greatest hits set, I guess you could call it. But yeah, it was a good show. It wasn't raining, which was a bonus because last time I saw Aerosmith, it was chucking it down. And with vocalists, the older they get, sometimes their voice isn't as good as it could be or once was. Ozzy, Vince Neil, definitely Vince Neil. Steven Tyler, on the other hand, his voice doesn't age. It's still as good as it was. That man's voice, a bit like Rob Halford, and I guess to a degree Bruce Dickinson, although I've heard Bruce not maybe quite as good as he once was in some of the more recent shows, but still staggeringly good. But yeah, Steven Tyler, he will sing forever until the day he dies and sound just as good as he did when he was in his 20s and 30s. Amazing. Really great vocalist. And that, of course, was an amazing way to wrap up Download. The first band that we actually saw probably headline the full set on Main, of course. We weren't on third that night for Dillinger. Aerosmith won it out on that one. But then, yeah, across the rest of the day, Avatar opening up second stage. They've gone on to do quite well for themselves of Avatar. Kill Devil Hill, which I believe was Rex Brown's band. I think I may have actually gone to see them and just forgotten to talk about them. Hence why we ended up getting Rex with Phil, because he was there anyway. Skillet, Amure, Sepultura, Sabaton. They're a band that's really pushing out now, massive in Europe. Just had a UK arena tour announced, so their popularity is definitely on the up. Bit like Amon Amarth, I feel, kind of sat at a level for a while and is suddenly starting to appeal more and more out to people. We've seen them headline at, I think they headlined Bloodstock one year. But yes, Sabaton there. Siva, The Pretty Reckless, and then Trivium headlining. Bumped up from fourth stage to second stage. And then on the third stage, some interesting bands. The Gravel Tones were back. I spoke about them before. Viartis Murder. We had The Treatment. Crazy Town. Blackstone Cherry, as I spoke about. Suicide Solids for Used, who were a lot bigger back in the day. And then the Dillinger Escape Plan, probably good job they were the last band on that stage, because I'm sure they probably absolutely dismantled it with their Fury math metal. Fourth stage, never really stands out. Monuments, and then into Zebrahead. And then, yes, acoustic stage, Nick Oliveri, who we all know from Queens of the Stone Age, and the Dwarfs as well, closing out that day. I wonder if he did any Queens. Who knows? Download 2014. That is a wrap on that one. Good weekend. Nice to get across the board onto a few of the other stages and not just stick to Main too much on that one. Branch out and check some headliners out on the third stage. Very cool. Very, very cool weekend. Had a lot of fun. It was a good year, 2014. Thanks for checking it out, guys. Subscribe, hit the bell, smash that like button, all the usual blah, 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 all that. Go and do it for me. Do me a favour. Go and do it. 2015 next week, back Monday at 8. So come and check that one out. Come and join the chat. Drop some comments. Let's have some fun. Share your memories. Plenty more vinyl coming up. Some new vinyl arrived today. I gave it a little spin earlier. I'm going to go and check it out a little bit more this afternoon. But of course, thank you once again. I'm Matt. It's the Vinyl Head UK channel. Download 2014. Hope you were there. Hope you enjoyed it. 15 next week. Take care. See you soon.